Hey, good evening. Thank you for joining us on the Thursday Night Hockey Show. I'm Dave Valente, and I am riding solo tonight. Give good thoughts and prayers to Travis Rednick, who is under the weather this evening. So it'll be a quick show this evening, talking about playoffs coming up and the is the 4 goal lead the new 2 goal lead being the worst lead in hockey, and some other stuff. Playoff picture coming into focus, and if you can see on the corner over here, on the I guess to my left, yeah, you can see the TV going on in the background. It is the Frozen Four, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Right now, the score is 2-1. Uh, University of Denver over Michigan, which would be a huge upset. And we'll talk about Michigan here in a moment. Um, but let's take a look at the games that'll be going on tonight. Back in here. All right, nice games. So on the East Coast, the first games this evening, we'll be seeing the Predators take on the Senators in Ottawa at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock also, the Canadians are in New Jersey. The Rangers will be hosting the Penguins. The Flyers will be taking on the Blue Jackets. The Sabres, this is a 7:30 start. The red hot Buffalo Sabres, fresh off of being eliminated from the playoffs, so winning the other night against Carolina, will have a rematch with the Hurricanes in Raleigh at 7:30. At 8:30 tonight, the Kraken will be in Chicago to take on the Blackhawks. The Maple Leafs will be down in Dallas to take on the Stars. This has major playoff implications on both sides of the bracket. The Canucks and the Coyotes seem to be playing for the tank, at least for the Coyotes. The Canucks did have a stirring win last night against the Vegas Golden Knights, 5-1. But this is going to be a passover game, I think, for me. 10 o'clock start for that one. This one will be a good one. The Oilers versus the Kings at 10:30. Oilers will be traveling to Los Angeles for that one, and the Calgary Flames will be in San Jose to take on the Sharks. So a full slate of games tonight. Um, as I mentioned, I'm actually watching the Frozen Four game, and we'll go ahead and start with that. Um, so the Frozen Four is this week. It is in Boston. So the first game right now, as I said earlier, is Denver taking on the University of Michigan. The University of Michigan is stacked. It's got 7 first-round draft picks, including last of the last draft. 4 of the top 5 picks, picks 1, 2, 4, and 5, went, are all attending Michigan this season. Kind of a dream team. Probably the best team Michigan's fielded. Oh, Michigan just tied it up. Solid. So 34. Anyway, Michigan is kind of a dream team, and if they don't win, that'll be a major disappointment. Probably the best Michigan team that they've had on campus since the Fab Five in the early '90s. So um, anyway, let's hop back into the action here. Yeah, so I will tell you that Buffalo's first round draft pick, Owen Power, looks phenomenal. He can fly with that puck. So he can move it and distribute it. He was on the ice for the goal. So looks like the big line scored for the Michigan Wolverines. It's 2-2 with just over halfway through the third period, just half over remaining in the third period at 10:51. The other game is an all Minnesota affair. It is University of Minnesota versus Minnesota State Mankato. Minnesota State Mankato is, I think, the number one overall team at the end of the season, um, and this is their biggest chance to win a national title. I think of the 4 teams remaining, it's the only one that has not. So big chance for them this season. But again, that Michigan team is it is stacked. Um, Talking Matty Beniers, the other Hughes brother. There were draft picks from 2020 and 2019, first round draft picks on that team. So it's a lot of solid players, and they should be. Uh, I would call them the favorite, but, Denver's giving them all that they can get, and it looks bad cross-checking penalty to, Michigan. That is the one thing that will even it up. They will, if they can't stay out of the box, and, Denver's got a really good team. They're a number 1 seed in their region as well. So, 3 number 1 seeds in the region, and I think Minnesota was a 2 or 3. So, um, this is gonna be a really good tournament. It's like the first time in several years that they've had this many, first overall seeds make it this far in the tournament. The finals are on Saturday night. Again, this is in Boston, so Boston's on the road, in the NHL, during this, and, so if you have not watched college hockey, it's not as crisp and clean as the NHL game, but it is very much passionate. Um, and I when people talk about the Arizona Coyotes moving to a Allegiant Arena next season at Arizona State, I'm actually excited to see that because if Arizona can handle that college, atmosphere in their games, it will make Arizona a very tough place to play for the Chargers because, college arenas, the fans are right on top of players. I mean, it's a 5,000 seat arena, and all 5,000 seats will be, eh, within chucking distance of some of the fans. So, or all the fans actually. So, uh, I'm looking forward to Arizona playing the next few seasons. I know players are not happy about it because of escrow and how it will affect, revenue, but, I think it's gonna be a good thing, and it'll I think it'll jumpstart the, Arizona franchise, if it goes well. They start developing, the tank that they're doing this season is done well, then, we can start seeing them improve on the ice and, get college students out to the games. I mean, can you imagine a playoff game where there's 5,000 students sitting right on top of the players? Um, that would be insane. So, uh, I believe they're either still in the penalty or they just took it off. For sure, another Sabres prospect, is, in goal for the Michigan Wolverines, and, yeah, they just gotta clear. There's 40 seconds left of the penalty. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Go to a college hockey game. There's nothing like it. It's it's hockey, which is an awesome sport to begin with, but then it's also that kinda crazy collegiate atmosphere, and, I think perhaps other teams and other fan bases will start to emulate if, Arizona has, success in their new barn, in their new small barn. Let's see, let me do our advertising for the night. Go visit my friend Travis, even though he's sick right now. Go visit my friend Travis Rednick in Beckley, West Virginia at the Deep End Antiques. That is the website, the Facebook page, Deep End Antiques. If you like military surplus, if you like gemstones, if you like, quartzes and all that, rocks and things like that, if you like formed glass, if you like, um, all kinds of antiques and tables and all and knickknacks and all that stuff. If you want it, he's got it there at the store. Um, if he doesn't, he'll know where to find it. So, if you get a chance, drop into the Deep End Antiques in Beckley, West Virginia, I-64 or I-68. On the East Coast, we'll take you there. So, we're done with that. Let's talk some news in the NHL. Today was learned that Doug Wilson, who had been on medical leave of absence with the San Jose Sharks, is going to step down as GM of the team. He's been the GM of the team for 19 years. Um, so the search for a new GM for the Sharks will commence, assuming fairly immediately. Although they may not name somebody until after the playoffs, or at least the a team maybe that they're targeting gets eliminated in the playoffs. A lot of times, um, they'll wait until that team gets eliminated in the playoffs. There's a danger in that. GMs are very integral in the draft process, and the Sharks are in a situation where they need really a couple of drafts to hit for them to get them from that just out of the playoffs team that they are now, or fairly well out of the playoffs that they are now, and getting them up to into the playoffs. It's going to be hard with the salary cap situation that they're in, but they really need a GM that can draft well and get some young players into that lineup because of the salary cap situation in San Jose. They just don't have a whole lot. They have a ton of money in a very few number of players like Brett Burns and Logan Couture and they just paid Thomas Tuchel, and these are long-term contracts. Um, Eric Carlson as well. So um, yeah, they need the room, and the way that they can do that is either play some below average players that are veterans making the league minimum, or which hasn't worked out bad for the Sabres this season, at least the last few months. Or they can get some really young kids into the lineup. There's always danger of burning out some kids if they're in before they're ready. So anyway, yeah. So San Jose looking for a new GM, and hopefully they can find one and get that underway. It looks like the Phillies just been called. Another penalty on Michigan. They're going to blow this game. Anyway, um, my Sabres were officially eliminated from the playoffs last night with Washington's win over Tampa and marks the NHL record 11th straight season without playoffs for my Buffalo Sabres. I feel all 11 of those years. I feel like two at least. Um, I don't even remember what it feels like to get the playoffs. But you know what? This season feels different. Um, the infusion of Alex Tuck and Peyton Krebs, the removal of Jack Eichel, while a phenomenal talent, we'll get to him in a little bit, um, and kind of removing that cloud over the organization that had been going on all last year and the prior year when he originally asked to be dealt. And some of these young guys starting to really develop and the tutelage under Tommy Granato. There's hope in Buffalo. Since March 2nd, the Sabres have, I think they're like 13-4 and 2. I think is their record over that period of time, and they've beaten some really decent teams. And they've beaten the Golden Knights. They've beaten the Maple Leafs twice. Um, uh, they are the only team that really handled them that time uh, was the Florida Panthers this past weekend because and even then the Sabres so they fell down like 3-4 to 1. They made a decent comeback, lost 5-3 on a late power play goal. Um, but that the team's got fight, and it's good to see. They beat the Carolina Hurricanes the other night. They play them again tonight, and I expect the Hurricanes to actually uh, to probably win this game because it's at home. They've got a chance to clinch the playoffs, and but again, we're seeing progress with this team, which I don't think many people at the beginning of the season thought that we'd see progress with the Sabres. They were a team of both young kids and guys on league minimum contract, and they did struggle for the first half of the season, and you know. Alex Stuck and Peyton Krebs come over. They originally put Krebs in the minors until Alex Stuck came up, returned from an injury, and this team is going like gangbusters, especially as they get more familiar with each other. They didn't do a whole lot at the trade deadline. It was curious. They did have contracts to move, but uh, I think that was an important signal to a lot of the players on the team that they're not going to make any rash decisions or blow anything up. We've got enough draft picks. We got 3 first-round draft picks this year. Um, we got a couple, I think, next year. So we've got draft picks to burn right now, and, just keep drafting really high-end prospects and let's see where this takes us. Um, but yeah, 11 straight years, it's tough. It's really hard to watch that. Still 2-2. I mean, it's 4:18 left in the third period. Denver is on with a power play for the next 40 seconds. Um, let's see. Let's talk about 4-goal leads being the worst lead in hockey now. It used to be 2-goal leads. That was what they would tell you is a 2-goal lead is the worst lead in hockey. But after this last couple of weeks, you gotta say it's the 4-goal lead now. Twice in the last week, the Florida Panthers have overcome 4-goal leads to win in overtime. First one was against the New Jersey Devils on Saturday. Devils were up 6-2. I think about 10 minutes left to go in the game. And uh, the best way I can describe it is that Florida had a score. They just started pounding the puck in the net, and eventually got the game to overtime, and they won it in overtime. Fast forward to Tuesday night, I guess it was Florida in Toronto take on the Maple Leafs. Now, to come back against the uh, New Jersey Devils, not a big surprise. To do it against the Maple Leafs, that's a surprise. I mean, yeah, Toronto's got more of a defense, but Austin Matthews is scoring, Mitch Marner scoring. I mean, William Nylander scoring. It was, it was blowout city early in the game, and this one didn't take. They didn't bunch them up together. This one they started to come back with about halfway through the game. Got it to overtime. Actually took the lead at one point in the game. Uh, uh, 6-5. Toronto tied it up, got it to overtime, where they eventually the Cats won. Jonathan Huberdeau put the game winning goal in the net, and I, the Florida Panthers are like they've got the cheat code or something. Also, it appears that they've turned off the trade approval function in NHL 22 uh, with what they did at the trade deadline, but that's neither here nor there. Um, but they're not the only team. Buffalo did it against Chicago late in March. They were down 4-0 before the end of the first period, um, and Buffalo was able to make the comeback and actually beat them before the end of regulation with a crazy goal from Paige Thompson. Uh, the other game that I can that's fairly recent is Winnipeg Jets blew a 4-goal lead to the Tampa Lightning, or not Tampa, I'm sorry, Montreal Canadiens. But they blew a 4-goal lead to the Montreal Canadiens. Didn't score, and that was done fairly early in the game. Montreal scored 4 consecutive goals, and with about halfway through the game, uh, Winnipeg turned it back on and blew them out 8-4. So it's I'm here for all the scoring. I really enjoy that. I don't think it's going to continue in the playoffs. It never does. But uh, it's fun to watch a game where it's just wide open fire wagon hockey. Uh, but that's my only pause with the Cats right now is that their goaltending is and you need goaltending at least you need your goaltender to make at least one save per game in the playoffs. And I don't know that I trust either Bobrovsky or Spencer Knight at this point. That's the only chink in the armor with the Florida Panthers because the forward, the defensemen are all on lock. I mean, they were just it's just a beast. It's a mini all star to look at. But anyway, yeah. So 4-goal lead, no longer the uh, it's the worst lead in hockey now. So let's take a look at the playoffs as we move on here. Let me bring that screen back up. There we go. All right, let's take a look at the Eastern Conference tonight. If the playoffs started, your Carolina Hurricanes, first place in the Metropolitan Division, 98 points, uh, followed by the Rangers at 96 points. The Canes have lost a couple in a row, and that lead has wilted away a little bit. And Rangers are coming, and they could conceivably over the last. They got 11 games. Carolina's got 12 games remaining, but they could conceivably get past Carolina and be top team in the on that side of the bracket, the Metro side of the bracket. On the Atlantic side of the bracket, and then Pittsburgh is pretty solidly in third place in that division. Uh, Washington is at 86 points. They are 6 points behind the Penguins. Unless the Penguins kind of collapse going down the stretch, they've lost a couple. Could happen. Uh, Washington's probably pretty safe in that wild card two position, and Pittsburgh's pretty safe in the third position there in the Metropolitan. In the Atlantic, the Florida Panthers already clinched the playoff spot. Like I said, they're just no lead is safe against them. They are called the comeback cats for a reason. They are looks like 8 points ahead of the Toronto Maple Leafs and 11 points ahead of Boston. Now the big change here is Boston has moved into the top three of the Atlantic Division, so they would host or they would actually be hosted by the Toronto Maple Leafs in the first round. That's got to scare the hell out of the Toronto Maple Leafs. They've not had a very good history with Boston in the playoffs. So, Tampa has moved down to the wild card one position, and that would be so the way it works is the top team in the division gets or the top team in the conference will get the wild card two. So Florida would host the Washington Capitals, while the uh, Tampa will go to Carolina, which would be a good series in and of itself, or the Rangers, depending on who wins that division. But as it stands now, Carolina would host Tampa, the Florida Panthers would host Washington, and I think that would be a pretty quick series. Toronto and Boston, which would be I'm not feeling good if I'm Toronto, and the Rangers and the Penguins. And I think the Rangers will make pretty quick work out of it. So that's an interesting thing. That, again, the Eastern Conference has been settled for the last couple of months. The Islanders have come from the very depths of the division to come on, but they are way too far. They've been way too far behind for way too long. 73 points. They're 13 points behind the Washington Capitals. Even though they have a game in hand, it won't matter. It's only a matter of time. Everybody up to Buffalo has been eliminated so far. So Detroit, Columbus, New York Islanders are next in the Eastern Conference to be eliminated, and that's that. Let's flip on over to the Western Conference. Colorado has already clinched the playoff spot. They are in the driver's seat for the President's Trophy, which gives them a home ice advantage through the playoffs. Should they get to the Stanley Cup Finals, they would get home ice in the Stanley Cup Finals as well. They've won four in a row. There's not much challenge to the uh, Colorado Avalanche. They've got a 15-point lead on Minnesota in second place in the division. It's a pretty good tussle between Minnesota and St. Louis for home ice in that first round playoff series. Minnesota's up by 1 point with the game in hand. Although St. Louis is getting hot at the right time, they got three in a row. We just an update. It's overtime now between Michigan and Denver. We have two storied programs in college hockey, and should be a fun overtime. It kind of sucks that one of those teams will have to go home tonight. Although if it means that Owen Power and Eric Portillo sign early with the Sabres, tomorrow. Uh, the Pacific Division, which is still a mess. It feels like the Pacific Division is only gonna get 3 teams into the Stanley Cup playoffs. Calgary is up on the Edmonton Oilers. Pretty solid, pretty solid leaders. I would give them. Uh, I would be surprised if they fall back in the past by 8 games. In the conference. So Calgary is trailed by Edmonton. Edmonton and Los Angeles play a first round series with Edmonton hosting. Um, they've had an interesting playoff history together. So people in the 80s will remember the or late 70s will remember the miracle in Manchester. Um, the, this is a an interesting playoff matchup. Los Angeles is hell young. They've got a couple of good veteran players in Kopitar and Dowdy and Dick Robertson. They've got some decent veteran players. But this is that youth movement. And it's a year early than most people thought with Los Angeles, and that might play into future playoff discussions here in a moment. But the two wild card teams right now are Nashville and Dallas. Dallas and Vegas have been trading back and forth the last few games. That Dallas would play, they'd win, they go into the playoff position. Vegas would play, they'd win, they go into the playoff position. Last night was the first team to blink, and that was Vegas. Vegas lost to Vancouver 5-1. It was a pretty comprehensive beating. Robin Leonard was in net for the Golden Knights. They have been getting players back. Alec Martinez is back in the lineup. Still don't have Stone, and Jack Eichel's playing well. He's got 10 goals in 24 games. And most of those goals have come over the last. Had a 5-game winning streak before falling last night. But most of his goals come in over that period of time. The but here's the problem for Vegas. Even if they win tonight, or I'm sorry, Dallas loses tonight, they still have the lead in the division. They still have 2 games in hand on Vegas. Vegas is at 10 games remaining, and looking at Vegas' schedule, next 2 games are winnable for them. They've got Arizona. They got another matchup with Vancouver next, the final matchup with them. But it gets much, much tougher. You read Colorado's and other teams in the playoffs. They do have one more matchup with Dallas towards the end of the season. Uh, Vegas' path to the playoffs really lies in if they can get either Edmonton or Los Angeles to really just kind of collapse going down the stretch. Los Angeles, because they're a younger team and they got a lot of younger bodies in that lineup, would probably be the team that if I was Vegas, I would be circling. Unfortunately for Vegas, they have no more games against Los Angeles this season. So no head-to-head matchups. Tonight, Los Angeles plays Edmonton. The worst thing that can happen for Vegas is that goes to overtime, so it becomes a 3-point game, and they fall further and further back, regardless of who wins that game. So Los Angeles is now at 86 points. There are 4 points up on the Vegas Golden Knights. They do have 4 tough games coming up. One winnable game in that stretch against Chicago, but they're playing like Colorado and Minnesota and Calgary, or sorry, Edmonton tonight. So it's a tough stretch for them. But if they can get through that, their final games of the season are all against your Seattle's, your Arizona's, your Vancouver's, teams that have already been eliminated and or are on the verge of being eliminated that will probably not have as much to play for when they get into that part of the schedule. So if Los Angeles is serious about making the playoffs, this is their opportunity. I think they have the advantage over Vegas because it's kind of a flipped schedule. It's tough for Los Angeles here at the beginning, but if they're still in a playoff position, once they get through these next 4 games, uh, they should be able to get into the playoffs and hold off the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm happy to see Jack Eichel succeeding. I'm happy to see him scoring goals, see him have that fire. I hate that if he does not make the playoffs, I hope that they don't blame it on him. I would be burning down the office of the general manager. Uh, they didn't do enough, and they didn't do their due diligence to be able to clear enough cap space so they could have a full lineup going down the stretch. But he's got to you got to feel for the guy that he gets traded to a at least for the first 4 seasons of their existence, for a perennial playoff team, and then never played the playoffs, and goes out and does not make the playoffs with his team. Unfortunate for Jack Eichel. It's a huge boon for the Sabres. Um, the worst case scenario for the Sabres is that the Golden Knights miss the playoffs and then win the draft lottery, because that first round pick is top 10 protected. Um, Vegas could win the draft lottery, and the way the rules have changed, they can only go up 10 spaces. So they could finish 16th overall. They could only draft in the sixth position. So um, it would cost Buffalo a draft pick. It would actually cost Buffalo a space. They have their draft pick, first round draft pick, moved back a little bit. That's the worst case scenario for Buffalo. It could happen. It's Buffalo, but yeah, it's a complete benefit for the Sabres to have old Alex Stuck, Peyton Krebs, and then first round draft pick that is lottery eligible. That would be huge. No one would have seen that coming when that trade was made in November. Um, but anyway, that's the playoff picture. I know several teams in the West have already been eliminated. Let's take a look at the tank battle. So right now we've got a two-way tie for the tank, and that is your Montreal Canadiens at 49 points. Um, Although I think they've got an advantage over your Arizona Coyotes, or Travis's Arizona Coyotes. The Coyotes, they're even on games played. Yep, 70 games played. They've won more games, lost more games, and have not gone to overtime quite as frequently. They have more regulation wins, regulation overtime wins. So as it stands now, Arizona is uh, second in the playoff draft pool. So uh, they've got some work to do over the final 12 games of the season. Pulling for you, Travis, pulling for Shane Wright to end up out there in the desert. Sell some tickets to your new bar. Couple more items for the evening. Hearty congratulations to Eve Gascon, netminder for the Gatineau Olympique. She is the first woman to play in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League in 22 seasons. And just the other day, she is the first woman to win in 22 seasons in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, as the Olympique beat the Drummondville Voltigeurs 7-3. So it was pretty good victory for her. So congratulations to her. And we'll end tonight on a bad note. Men behaving badly. Nothing in the NHL, thankfully. This is good. But in the AHL and in my favorite hockey league organization, the Rochester Americans, Rochester forward Ben Holmstrom, who is currently on a professional tryout. So 10-game professional tryout. I think a couple of games into it, he was thrown out of a game on March 30th for uttering homophobic references. Uh, was actually heard by the on ice officials. They assessed him a game misconduct in that game against Utica. The league has suspended him for 8 games. Um, he part of that is he has to engage in sensitivity and diversity training. As a guy who's done a professional tryout, um, I don't know that that tryout will be extended at the end of it. So dumb move. Good on the AHL for taking swift action. Good on the referees for taking action on the ice that they did. That's good stuff. You got to get that crap out of the game. Chirping is uh, the kind of the lifeblood of the game. I mean, on the ice, chirping happens. I'm not naive to say that chirping doesn't happen. Um, People cross the line. They'll bring in family members. They'll bring in wives, children. I mean, there's some nasty stuff said on the ice. You don't need to do the homophobic, racist tropes to, get under your opponent's skin. There's plenty of things you can say on the ice that, will get under the skin of your opponents that doesn't have to go there. Let's get that shit out of this game, and good on the AHL. Let's take a look at the scores, our scoreboard. We already got some goals tonight as we head into, the end of the first period of a lot of these games. So let's take a look. 6:02 left in the first period. The Predators are up on the Senators 1-0. Matt Duchene with his 37th goal of the season. He has had a banger of a season. With, you know, throwing in the goals. He's part of that resurgence. Him and Philip Forsberg. The thing to watch with the Predators as they head down towards the end of the season is what happens with Philip Forsberg. Can they get him under contract? Will they discuss contract as they get towards the end of the season or even the playoffs get him signed? Or are they going to wait and white knuckle it as soon as the playoffs are over, try and get him under contract? It's going to be his first chance at free agency, so that's a big thing to look at for the Predators. Canadians up 3-1 on the Devils with 4:42 left in the first. Suzuki, Evans, and Caulfield. Caulfield has been on fire since Martin St. Louis came on the scene there in Montreal. Has really reinvigorated the kid. He had that horrible sophomore slump. He was sent down to the minors. I mean, nothing was good going on with Paul Caulfield this season, and with Marty St. Louis, similar type player, small, very highly skilled. I think he's been a great boon for Cole Caulfield's career. Thomas Tatar, his 14th Devils. One of the another one of those veterans on the Devils that have kind of disappointed this season. I think Tatar. No score between the Penguins and the Rangers. A playoff preview, perhaps the first round playoff preview. Uh, at MSG, no score there. 45 seconds left in the first. The Blackhawks and the the Blue Jackets, the Flyers, 1-0. Robinson scored a shorty for the Blue Jackets. Set that cannon off. 52 seconds left to go there in the first period. My Sabres are just underway against the Hurricanes, 0-0. No update on the college hockey games yet. So I'm torn. If Michigan loses tonight, we can start signing Powers and Portillo. If they win tonight, I'm all about them getting that championship. I think if they lose, there's a greater chance that Powers and Portillo return for another dream team season. But, I don't know. I think the Sabres are very excited about getting either one of these guys into the fold. Anyway, I think that's it for the show. Thanks as always for watching, and giving my buddy Travis Aurednik a visit at the Deep End Antiques for all your military surplus needs, all your blown glass needs, all your rocks and crystals and all that fun stuff. Whatever you're looking for, he'll be able to find it, or if not, he'll be able to point you in the right direction. I-64, I-68 in West Virginia on the East Coast will get you there eventually. And Beckley is a beautiful little town. West Virginia is a beautiful state. Come visit us and check us out. So, anyway, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll talk to everyone next week.